Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the upper tier, and this is your Premier League preview. Darren, match week 35. 35, my friend.
35 weeks in, pal. Not long left, is there?
And we have been here for every single one of them.
When all the others let you down, we were the constant in your life. Isn't that right, Niall?
We're the ones who go down with the Titanic. We didn't jump off.
We were that invested in this. We did the African Nations Cup. Now, just remember that, everybody, yeah?
Well, here we go. Match week 35. It's going to be an absolute belter again. Lots to be sorted out in terms of top four, title race, relegation, all still on the line at the moment. Let's kick it off then. Saturday. No early game on Saturday because I think it was supposed to be us, but they switched it to an evening game because the championship is
the championship is it's the final day of the championship season, and all the kickoffs are at 12:30. So get your bets on early, or you will struggle.
And stay tuned to the channel because we have some great information for fans of the championship coming up for next season. But we'll let you know later on in the month what's planned there.
Do we?
We do. We've some really good information in relation to that. You should know. We've discussed it. Anyway, let's get into this. 3 o'clock on Saturday. Brentford versus Southampton.
Yeah, the Candy Stripes on tour, I think you're looking at the minute, isn't it?
Absolutely.
The two boys have pretty much packed up for the summer, and they're almost on vacation. Brentford were very poor on Monday night against United. Brentford were so poor on Monday night, they made United look good, I think. And that's quite difficult at the moment. And obviously Southampton struggling along there, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're not the side. They've checked out. They're not the side they were earlier on the season. Listen, and I get this with some of these kind of mid-table to lower half of the table teams. They're safe. And when you're safe, it's very hard to motivate yourself because they're not going to finish in the European spot. The prize money per spot in the Premier League is so small that it's not going to make a significant difference to the club or the players. And we know players at times can be all about themselves. So yeah, I can kind of see how this happens, if I'm honest.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you thinking? Draw?
Yeah, I think when there's games like this, you can probably see a lot of teams just happy to settle for a point, get out there unbeaten and move on to the next kind of game. But I think as well, even though it's the end of the season, fans don't necessarily like to see their team getting rolled over and tickled. And I think with Brentford, they could do with trying to keep their fans on side for next season, and stuff like that. So I think I might side with Brentford at the minute, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think, maybe because they're at home and stuff like that. And sure,
just because they're at home and it's a tough place to go to, Brentford. It's not an easy spot as some teams have learned this season. I think if Brentford show up the way we know they can, I think Brentford will just nick it on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think the game against yourselves the other night was unusual as well because they've been playing very well up to that in terms of Christian Eriksen, Ivan Toney and all. They'd been on form. Yeah,
and they were way off the pace. Like it wasn't even a case where, sometimes United win 2 or 3-0, but David De Gea's man of the match. It wasn't like that. He had very, very little to do. And he had a comfortable evening on Monday night.
Yeah, and I suppose would have been your last game at home, isn't it? Your last game at home of the season, wasn't it? So yeah. Burnley versus Aston Villa. This is very interesting.
Very, very interesting. Obviously, Burnley, pulled it out of the fire last week, 1-0 down away at Watford, and just managed to put the afterburners on in the last kind of half an hour, get back into the game and then go and nick it, which is huge for Burnley, especially when you consider the Everton result on Sunday afternoon, beating Chelsea and stuff like that. This just kept Burnley just ahead of Everton and kind of leaves your fate in their own hands, doesn't it really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the important thing for any of the sides down the bottom. If your fate is in your own hands and you can go and win games and make yourself safe, you've got an opportunity. But I think if you're relying on teams to get beaten or drop points, it can be difficult,
Yeah, and Stevie in recent times have been a bit off the boil, haven't they, Aston Villa?
They've been very off the boil. They got the win last weekend, and stuff like that, but they have been poor. I thought, we spoke about it earlier in the season, and I thought with the Villa game last weekend, again, he went in with the 2 10s and the 1-9. He played Coutinho and Leon Bailey behind Watkins. And early on in the first half, and it was about 40 minutes gone, Bailey come off and he brought Danny Ings on. And he went back to the 1 10 and 2 9s, and it worked so much better. So much better. Ings made a massive difference when he came off the bench and stuff like that. And I'd imagine that's how they'll start this weekend, which for me will probably give Villa the upper hand.
So what are you going for in this one?
I'll go to draw. Let's go 1-1. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be a really good game. It'll be really competitive. Burnley obviously pushing to keep this unbeaten streak going and try and stay ahead of the pack. But Villa obviously with the win last weekend and kind of getting the train back on the tracks and stuff in the recent weeks, I think they'll be up for it as well. So yeah, I think I'll say draw. And Stevie might be trying to do his old friend Lamps a little favour, you know.
Don't know about that. I'm going to go with Burnley just by the odd goal. I think it could be 1-0 or 2-1. I think in recent weeks, Turf Moor has looked a bit more like Turf Moor that we would know in recent past.
Absolutely.
And I think with the crowd behind them and stuff like that, and as you said, they have a great opportunity to survive. And I think if the crowd gets behind them, I think the way Villa play and the way they try and play football, I don't think they'll fancy going down there to a kind of a horrible pitch as well and a hostile environment as well. And I think Burnley might just shade it because with Villa, I know they got that win there the other day, but they've kind of flattered to deceive in recent times and stuff like that. And I just think with Villa, sometimes it's getting to the end of the season. And again, they don't have a lot to prove really at this stage. Except maybe to their manager who's probably looking
around. Maybe to their manager who's thinking.
Maybe the manager who's been
what changes are we going to make in the summer here? Who's up for this and who's not up for this? You know what I mean? So yeah, listen, we can't count them out completely, but I definitely see where you're going with that.
And I think with Burnley playing the earlier game and the Leeds and Everton not playing till Sunday, that's decisive as well at times as well. You want to try and lay down a marker and stuff like that.
And I mean, that's just luck of the draw because that's been determined for quite some time, you know.
Yeah.
Because obviously they have a minimum of time they need to give notice of when the games are going to be played for people traveling and stuff like that. So just the way the ball hop, but it's definitely in Burnley's favour, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're always better off playing first.
Absolutely.
I've mentioned it a few times, even with ourselves on the title race, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. Chelsea versus Wolves.
Yeah, Wolves are very, very poor last weekend, weren't they, against Brighton? Very, very poor. They look like they're lacking a little bit of bite, and they look like that long, hard season that they had under Bruno Larguet has just kind of hit them now. Yeah. You know, Chelsea obviously have the cup final to look forward to. They've obviously got spots to play for in that cup final starting team. I think there's a number of lads who we know will play, but I think there's a few positions on the pitch that are still up for grabs if people can put performances in, you know. Yeah. They just haven't managed to hit the highs that we've expected of them recently, Chelsea, have they?
Yeah, they've been dealing with an awful lot of stuff. I mean, between the ownership.
They have, the off-field stuff.
The ownership
absolutely.
They've been dealt a big blow in terms of injuries throughout the season, the whole Lukaku debacle. You know, obviously other players as well wanting to check out and stuff like that. We've seen the issue there with Rudiger all season and Christensen and stuff like that. So, yeah, you know, I mean, I know Chelsea fans won't want to hear this, but I think Tuchel's done a real good job to try and keep this ship going somewhat. But they have looked very, very flat and they have fallen away badly. But I think they'd have too much for Wolves. I think Wolves are good at teams. I think they've checked out at this stage.
Yeah, I do think they'll have too much. Plus, I think you'll have a couple of those lads that still want to go, you know what, I'm here, I'm ready to play, and I'm available for when this cup final happens, that we can try and put our best foot forward and end a very, very difficult season on a high.
Yeah, and there's also a slight look over their shoulder as well, I suppose, in this, I won't call it a top 4 or top 3 race, but certainly they've slipped back mathematically into a situation where, you know, a couple of bad results and they could find themselves in a bit of a battle again. Not dissimilar to last season, where Absolutely. They were skating along nicely, and then last day of the season it took a big result for them to stay in the top 4. But I think they'll be okay from that point of view. I think they'll have too much. They should get the win against Wolves on Saturday, and that should solidify that situation.
Yeah, I think they'll both be 2-0.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
Palace versus Watford.
Yeah, Palace versus big game, really big game. You know, Watford obviously last weekend trying to throw themselves a lifeline, really, weren't they, and beat Burnley and stuff like that. Difficult, very, very difficult. You know, I think you've all but got to say Watford are gone, haven't you? You know,
100%,
like it's
100%.
got, it would take something extraordinary for them to manage to stay up at this point. And I think from within the camp they'll understand that. I think they've been planning for the championship for quite a while now, Watford. You know, so yeah, I think Palace will win this handy, if I'm honest. I think we haven't seen the best Palace that we can in the last few weeks, but they've still picked up good results. You know, obviously last weekend, you know, Wilfred Zaha starts on the bench, comes off it, gets the winner and stuff like that. Now, I was watching Soccer Saturday. Clinton Morrison was like, he's the best player. Why is he on the bench? And you know, maybe he's carrying a knock, or maybe it's the end of a long, hard season and stuff like that. He's been to Africa for the AFCON and stuff. So, you know, maybe he's just giving the lads a little bit of a break in between games and stuff, or giving lads maybe the better half of a game or something. But I fully expect Palace to do this now, I have to say, and do it in style.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, certainly, as you said, Palace have dropped off a little bit, and certainly the disappointment of the semi-final cup, semi-final match in the FA Cup. But I think not only the disappointment of that, but probably when they look at it, they had a great opportunity, and the disappointment in how they went about it and performed as well. Not just that they were unlucky and they got knocked out. You know?
It was absolutely the performance. They were shocking.
Yeah.
You know, and we know that with Palace, they can be unbelievable at times. You know, so yeah, they'll feel like they let themselves down. The boy, Conor Gallagher, we've thrown a lot of plaudits at him all season. He hasn't been visible at all in the last 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah. He really hasn't. So I'd expect maybe back at Selhurst Park, big performance from Conor Gallagher, Palace to get over the line. And I'm going to say 4-0.
Yeah, Conor might be thinking that there's a blue jersey in it for him at the end of this season, I would imagine. And I'd
absolutely
imagine Chelsea be very happy to have him back as well, based on their midfield at the moment anyway.
Absolutely should be, yeah.
So Palace comfortable here.
Yeah.
Brighton versus Man United is the 5:30.
Yeah, Brighton versus Man United. Yeah, like, you know, to be honest with you, at the minute, Brighton, you would have thought in the last few weeks Brighton were a good team to play against, but all of a sudden they've just picked up a couple of victories, haven't they? And just started to get the ball rolling again, because obviously they went through that patch of no wins in, was it 10 or 11 games, and
they found a few goals. Found a few goals,
and now all of the boy Trossard has nipped in with a few goals, and they've obviously, you know, they've kept it really, really tight most of the season, Brighton, haven't they? At the back, you know, the boy Dunk does a great job. The lad Webster. And the boy, I have to give him a shout out again. I would absolutely love to see him at Man United next season. The boy Mark Cucurella that they bought last summer, plays left back or left wing back. He's a phenomenal footballer, the kid. He really is.
Energy, massive fitness.
Endless energy, great fitness. He's a good defender. He's good with the ball at his feet. His delivery is excellent. Like, there's nothing the kid doesn't have. Do you know what I mean? To make himself a top footballer. I will not be surprised if in 2 to 3 years' time, we're hearing Real or Barca are coming in heavy for a boy like Mark Cucurella. You know, I really, really won't be surprised.
Has that good Marcelo look as well?
Has that good? And I mean, we know obviously they've got Ferland Mendy there stepping in front of Marcelo. But when Marcelo steps out of the building completely, you're gonna need another backup left back, aren't you? And if they want to split their time between Cucurella and Mendy, they'd be doing all right for me.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you thinking on this one? I suppose United are still trying to solidify the top 6, are they?
I kind of think the top 6 is, I think they've got that sorted, really. I know it's tight enough, but I think they'll pick up enough points between now and the end.
Just always thinking Brighton, to go to Brighton and want to pick up a point or 3 is always a tough task as well, isn't it?
It is, but I think they'll be buoyed by Monday night, you know. It's been a long time since we've had a clean sheet. We scored 3 goals. We controlled the tempo of the game. It was one of our best performances in quite a while, if I'm honest. Now, listen, there's nothing on the line, so it's obviously easier. But I like the way, and I spoke to you after the game about it, where he brought Mata into the situation, because we know Mata's not a guy who gives the ball up very, very cheaply, you know. He keeps, his ball retention is very, very good. And obviously playing him on one side means you don't have 2 wingers that are running down a blind alley, which at times has happened with Elanga and with Sancho or with Rashford and stuff like that. So to have somebody that was able to maybe tuck back in and knock the ball square, keep it, get it back. There was lovely little triangles in the first half, and I just thought, we've missed stuff like this. You know, we've all too often tried to get the ball in too quickly, and because we've rushed it, you know, we've lost possession of the ball, and then the other team maybe catches out on the hop and stuff like that. So it was nice to see. I think United will do this, if I'm honest. And a couple of weeks ago, I wouldn't have been overly excited about going to Brighton, but I think, having seen them in the last couple of weeks, I think United have enough to get a result. It'll absolutely be tough though, and I will say it'll be. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Go on, keep going. Yeah, you just faded out there for a minute.
Oh, sorry, 2-1 to United.
Yeah, good show.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm thinking more a draw. I think United as well, they would have been buyout the other night, would have been their last home fixture, and they probably felt they owed one to the fans as well. So I'm not sure if you can carry the wave of that a little bit in there. And the thing about it is with Ralph as well, I'm not sure if he'll stick with the Matic situation either, you know what I mean? Which was obviously pivotal in the performance the other night.
Yeah, well, I mean, you saw obviously Fred coming off the bench and stuff like that, which is great to have him back involved. So I'd imagine we'll go back to Fred and McTominay. But I'm okay with Fred and McTominay over McTominay and Matic. But I do think he'll still find a spot for Mata, I have to say. I think the performance was good enough to warrant him getting another look in. And I thought Anthony Elanga was very, very good on Monday night, you know. And he's been United's brightest spark for a number of weeks. Obviously, other than Ronaldo, who's been exceptional in getting goals and helping us to win games and keeping us in games and stuff like that, which has been phenomenal. I think Elanga, for me, has been the bright light to come out of United's dark season.
Yeah. Suppose, what did you make as well? I didn't get your opinion on it, but what did you make of Ralph's kind of how would I phrase this? Fuck you to some of the guys that are leaving on Monday. It certainly came out on Tuesday. We know that Jesse's brother was very vocal on Instagram and then took it down. But I can guess what your opinion is going to be anyway. But
well, Jesse's brother, you know his name, don't you?
No,
neither do I, because nobody gives a fuck about Jesse's brother.
Yeah.
Because actually, nobody really gives a fuck about Jesse, because Jesse checked out of Old Trafford a long time ago. So why Jesse would feel that he's privileged and he should be allowed, because he's been there since 9 years of age, he should be allowed this farewell at the Theatre of Dreams. Jesse's had an awful lot of opportunities in the last number of weeks in the United jersey to put his best foot forward and actually claim a spot in that starting 11. And he's never taken the opportunity. He's done little or nothing when he's been put on the pitch. So for Jesse's brother to come out and have a piss and a whinge and a moan and say, my brother should have got his farewell at Old Trafford, pack your bags, see you later. Good luck at Newcastle. I hope he's get relegated. And good night.
But we don't hope Newcastle get relegated.
No, we don't.
Really.
I just hope Jesse gets relegated. I hope wherever he ends up. If he goes to, I see talk this morning in the I can't call them tabloids because they're, you know, you can't call them tabloids when they're telling me that PSG, Juventus, AC Milan, and Newcastle are all interested in Jesse Lingard. Are they fuck?
They do like the higher social media FC guys though, don't they? And we know that Jesse, he's quite successful in terms of social media. So stop.
Don't even give it coverage. Like, that's,
can you imagine?
Talk about blowing smoke up someone's hole.
Can you imagine him standing there with the PSG jersey?
With the PSG. Oh God. Imagine it. That's actually,
stranger things have happened.
No. Stranger Things is on Netflix. This ain't gonna happen.
I don't know. I suppose when he was motivated, I mean, he was brilliant for West Ham when he went there.
He did well for West Ham. He absolutely did well for West Ham. But he's not at the Juventus, a PSG, or an AC Milan level. Now, let's not be silly here.
Well, Villarreal may say he might be at a Juventus level.
Listen, I think there's always exceptions to the rule, but
there is.
This isn't going to happen for me, I have to say. I think if he doesn't end up at West Ham or Newcastle, one of the two, I'll be shocked. Or do you know where he could go? He'd be super at Everton with the likes of Dele Alli, another fella that's packed it in because he's busy playing Fortnite. Get a fucking hobby, pal, because you've no job, you bum.
Well, this is the problem. He has a hobby and he's not focused on his career.
Joker. Absolute joker.
Massive game, the 7:45, an evening one, unusual. This is like an 8 o'clock Monday night football job, but it's kind of like there's a cup final feel to this as well. Liverpool versus Tottenham. Tottenham in a massive race for the top four. Liverpool, of course, hoping to keep the title race alive. Under the lights at Anfield, Saturday evening, which is very unusual. Not sure if it's happened much before.
Really looking forward, because obviously it's the double header. You've United Brighton Forest at 5:30, and then you've got Liverpool and Tottenham afterwards at 7:30. So, I mean, from about 5:30 onwards, my missus won't see me. I'll be glued to the TV somewhere. Kids will have to look after themselves, but listen, that's the way it is. Under the lights at Anfield, I would never, ever back against Liverpool. I just couldn't do it. Not under the lights at Anfield, because we know how good they are traditionally there. And under them lights, I think magical things happen. I think Spurs will have an eye on the Arsenal game, because I think the Arsenal game is huge for Spurs. I think Spurs will be looking at this Liverpool game and they'll be thinking, right, listen, the likelihood is we don't get out out of this, but then we've 3 to go. We've Arsenal +2. If we can get 9 points out of 12 and lose at Anfield, we can still manage that to grab that 4th spot. Yeah,
the North London derby next week is going to be absolutely massive.
100%. Massive. That's the biggest game of the season for Arsenal and for Spurs, hands down.
Do you know something? I think we might do a preview on that, even though we don't really have a card in the race. But we were getting on to have a
but chat. You know what? Sometimes it's nice when you don't have a horse in the race, because it'll make things a bit interesting. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we will do that actually. Yeah, definitely.
So you expect Liverpool on this one?
I expect Liverpool on this one. I think they'll open a can of whoop ass on Spurs on Saturday night and they'll take them out 3-1.
Nice. I'll be very happy with that. Let's move into Sunday then, the one that you were speaking about, Arsenal versus Leeds.
Yeah, you see, I would imagine there's a much bigger opportunity for Arsenal to drop points here. You know, and I think Spurs will have an eye on that, because Leeds obviously aren't safe at the minute. They're getting dragged further and further down. And if Everton and Burnley can both pick up results this weekend, you've got a massive logjam, and Leeds are almost at the bottom of it. You know what I mean? So Leeds are going to have to show up. I think Leeds will enjoy a game at Arsenal, because we know Arsenal don't tend to be, they're not an overly physical team. You know what I mean? Where Leeds will drag this down into the doldrums. They'll make it physical. They'll make it dirty. They'll really, I think they'll enjoy going to the Emirates, I have to say.
Yeah, they've a long way to pull that sock up after last week. They got absolutely butchered against City last week, didn't they? And I know, of course, it's Man City, but they really rolled over, didn't they?
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose it's a shame, because it's a bad time to go missing with the way, Burnley and Everton both picked up huge wins. I think a performance from Leeds would have been key to build a little bit of confidence. I mean, if you go tight with City and maybe you lose it by the odd goal, you come out of it and you go, we were close there. If we can put another performance in, we might get something out next week. Whereas they've really got to reinvent the wheel for this week, haven't they?
Yeah, and of course we have to have a shout out. Stuart Dallas, obviously, we wish him well in his recovery and stuff like that, and he's obviously a huge loss for Leeds as well.
Been a constant in the Leeds team and been a very, very good part of that Leeds squad for the last couple of years. Always a guy who the fantasy football players listening will enjoy, and handy to have in your team, always does well.
Yeah. What are we thinking here? You draw? Or do you think Arsenal will continue on?
I think Arsenal will nick it, but I think it'll be tight. I'll go Arsenal 2-1.
Arsenal 2-1.
Yeah.
Okay. Another one that's going to be going on at the same time. So literally on Sunday, we could have chopping and changing here in the relegation battle here. Leicester versus Everton. Everton obviously buoyed by the win against Chelsea, but
absolutely,
Leicester showing a little bit as well.
Leicester showing a little bit, and I suppose the Everton results have tended to come at Goodison, haven't they? The big results, they beat obviously United 1-0 at Goodison. They beat Chelsea 1-0 at Goodison. The away form hasn't been there, although some of the performances have been better. They haven't necessarily picked up the results they wanted. Played well at Burnley and lost 3-2, didn't they? And you'd have to think that it would be a big performance from Everton to get the win this weekend at Leicester. Leicester obviously playing this evening in the Europa. with a massive chance to get through to their first European final. It'd be amazing for Leicester. Really, really would. I think they're up against it tonight, obviously against Roma, and I think on Sunday, Everton might get the backlash of that, because I think there's guys that will be involved tonight and there's guys that won't be involved tonight, and he'll get a blend of them on Sunday. We've seen Jamie Vardy pop back up in the last few weeks. Obviously, the boy Fofana has come back in and he's been phenomenal. James Maddison's found a bit of form. The boy Adamola Lookman has been good. Big shout out to the lad Jude. I think he's been phenomenal as well. So yeah, I think Leicester will do this on Sunday, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think Leicester maybe 2-1.
2-1.
Yeah.
I think I can go with 2-1 Leicester. Yeah.
Yep. And next up, Norwich versus West Ham.
Yeah, well, it's going to be anyone bar Norwich, isn't it? Really, at this stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been. Listen, they found it tough, Norwich, haven't they? They always tend to find this Premier League tough, but they found it tough again this year. West Ham obviously again in action this evening. I don't necessarily see West Ham getting anything out of it tonight. I think this is going to be very tough in Frankfurt in Germany. Obviously, Eintracht knocked Barcelona out along the way, so it will be a huge shock if West Ham are able to turn this 2-1 deficit over. But I think again they could end up going out tonight, and they could end up showing up on Sunday and putting Norwich to the sword.
Yeah, I think with West Ham, as you've said, with a number of teams, they've had a long, tough season where they've remained competitive and they've done a great job.
Yeah.
But in recent matches, they've looked just that little bit leggy. I even seen it last week, even with Declan Rice, he looked a little bit leggy, and he's a guy who has unbelievable fitness.
It's a very tough thing to do when you're a team that tends not to play European football, to go deep into European competition while trying to maintain your form in a long Premier League campaign. So I think that's where the likes of Leicester and West Ham have found it a little bit difficult. And obviously, we know that they don't have two huge squads either. So but I think they've done great jobs, I have to say.
Yeah,
they'll both finish.
It's the mental, isn't it? It's the mental fatigue as well of keeping it going, isn't it? As opposed to the physical.
They'll both finish top 10 for me. I think Leicester will squeak a top 10, and I think West Ham will finish top 10. And if you'd have told them to start the season, you'll both finish top 10, and you'll go to the semi-finals of a European competition, I think they'd have taken that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I don't know. With Leicester, I suppose, with the money they spent on the players they brought in, they might have been thinking more a top 6, I'd say.
They might have been, but I just think it becomes difficult when you go deep, because you do slightly take your eye off the ball in the league, because you're saying, well, we know we're not going to necessarily win the league, so it's very hard to juggle. We've talked about it. They've come off the Thursday night football, and what's happened is they've got pumped a couple of times because they were sending maybe the second team out on a Sunday, and that's cost them, And as well, that means lads haven't stepped up when they were given opportunities. But I think it is tough at times as well, I have to say.
Yeah, I suppose with the resurgence of Arsenal back up the table and stuff like that, and in the top 4 race, it's kind of pinched a spot away that they thought might not be there. Because Arsenal, for a lot of the time, only up till recent times, had looked like they were going to finish around the 8th, 9th sort of spot, But then they put this run of form together with Arteta, absolutely exceptional job that they've done there to get into this top 4 race. So that kind of bumped both guys down slightly,
Absolutely.
But we're taking West Ham here, aren't we? Easy. Norwich would be
3-0. 3-0.
Yeah. So then we round out the Super Sunday 4:31 that I'll have my eyes absolutely pinned on. Man City versus Newcastle. Can Pep raise the boys up again after last night? I mean, that was devastating for them, I would imagine.
Devastating. I think this either goes one of two ways, and this might sound obvious, but either this affects them negatively and they struggle to get up for the Newcastle game. And if you're not on it against Newcastle, they're going to make it very, very difficult for you. They've also got a difficult game coming up against West Ham. Again, they're going to make it very, very difficult for Man City and stuff like that. Or Pep got them in the dressing room last night and had a chat to them and said, listen, lads, we've just thrown away the opportunity for Champions League final. Let's not go and throw away a league title either. 4 wins us a league title. You don't now have to worry about playing certain players and giving rests. You go out with your absolute best for the next 4 games, pick up 4 wins and lift that trophy and get the job done,
Yeah, I suppose the one thing about Pep that we always know, like, he generally always plays his best, and then he maybe rotates in game. But certainly
No,
looking at
I wouldn't say that, and I don't think fantasy Premier League players will say that either. You know, Pep's notorious for changing that starting 11. There's quite a few changes week to week in that, and like if you look at across that front line, you've got Foden, Grealish, Mahrez, you've got Jesus, you know, who all interchange in, and Sterling as well. So like you've 5 players there for 3 spots. Week to week, you can't generally tell which of the 3 will play. I suppose in the bigger games, you've got Foden, who's nailed on to play.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes we see Mahrez start, then we see Mahrez off the bench. Grealish hasn't really been involved as much this season as he would have liked, other than not closing down last night for Real to get the equaliser, which he wouldn't have been wanted to be involved in.
Been a poor season for him, hasn't it?
Very poor. Very, very poor. And, you know, I might give away a little clue here in our end of season awards, but Jack Grealish is certainly up for one of mine, I have to tell you. Really is.
He could be on a number of lists.
I just expected so much from him. I really did. Because I think at Villa, he was phenomenal. Now, listen, he struggled to get into the team week to week. He struggled with, you know, maybe the way they play, maybe still learning the game under Pep and stuff like that. And I don't necessarily think, you know, he'll flop at City, but I think we'll have to see a huge improvement next season for him to get to the levels where City expect him to be.
Yeah, I think he went from being a superstar at Villa and the first name on the team sheet and the guy who has a good time, and suddenly he went up to Man City where it's a different kettle of fish. You're part of a squad. You're just another player. You're a name on a team sheet. But you're not there to have a good time. It's all business. You're there to play. Business. It's very that serious.
That can be a very, very tough thing to do.
Yeah.
That can be a very, very tough thing to do. And it's very difficult to deal with. And some players either deal with it and some players don't deal with it. And they have to decide, you know what? I'm going to step out of this goldfish bowl and I'm going to give myself a pond and I'll be the big fish again. And to maybe, we'll see. I think next season will be important for him. Yeah. If we don't see the Jack Grealish of that we know he's capable, we're capable of seeing, I think after the year after that he could be on the chopping block at City at 100 million.
Yeah, I said it last week. Even when you looked at that first leg of the Champions League tie, they went out and they beat Real Madrid 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
But the post-match interviews, they were pissed off and they were down and they were fed up. And I was there thinking, you've just beaten one of the greatest teams ever 4-3 at home. You're taking the lead away to the Bernabeu. And I just got that sense from them that they know they should have had a lot more. I mean, it could have finished 5-1, let's be honest here. But they just shipped a few goals and gave away that penalty, not dissimilar to last night. And you just had a feeling in them that they knew themselves that one goal wouldn't be enough, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, if they've obviously watched Real go through the rounds and saw what happened with PSG and saw what happened with Chelsea and should have known that these boys are never. So yeah, listen, it was tough to see what happened to City, but you know, Real, you've got to give them credit as well. They were excellent, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. You couldn't take anything away from Real Madrid's performance, but
no,
I just think it's a massive job now to try and lift up that team.
No, absolutely not. We're forward to a big Champions League final on the 28th of May with European royalty.
Yeah. So what are you thinking on this one?
I think City will step this up again. I really do. I think City will step this up again and they will get their tails up and they will get the dog wagon. I think City will do this 3-1.
Okay, I'm gonna keep the faith and touch wood and cross everything and light a candle and hope that it's a draw 1-1 Newcastle Man City and hopefully give us a bit of impetus into that title race, push us ahead. Hopefully we can beat Spurs and get the momentum going and take top spot at least for 24 hours and see how it goes. This has been your Premier League preview, match week 35. The end is in sight. We're coming off the final bend at Cheltenham or Aintree.
Now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. Not looking forward to this, Niall. I'm really not.
Listen, we spent 30 years dealing with it, didn't we?
Oh, no, I know what you're talking about. Sorry, I'm only talking about the end of the season.
Oh, yeah. Well, as people know, we're going to be back with transfer shows and all sorts of other content as well. So we'll be busy over the summer.
We are. But we do like Beat the Bookie, and we do like the Premier League preview, and the mashup. So we'll miss them for the 8 or 10 weeks that they're not around,
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder, could we do a modified version of Beat the Bookie maybe on potential transfers going to places or something like that, and have a look at the betting on that throughout the summer or something, just as a little add-on to the transfer show or something. But we'll come up with some inventive ideas.
Will we just stack our 50s high and get them ready for the start of next season and get making some paper, boys?
Absolutely. Well, as always, if you want to contact the show, the Upper Tier Podcast at gmail.com. Obviously, drop your picks for this weekend and your score lines in the comments. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, the Upper Tier. And you'll also get audio versions show Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Cheers, pal.
Thanks, brother.